Welcome into another edition of the Saturday Night Snap Count. This your boy Coach I, man. We're gonna talk some Big 12 football tonight, man. We're gonna bring in our panel of guys, man, that's here tonight, and we're gonna chop it up, man. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
No, I got you on this one, Coach I. It ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. The fanatic. But we keep it 100, keep it real. That's the only way we know how to be. Talking that sports talk. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of South Carolina. Upstate, A64. Yeah. The FANATTIC. The fanatic where we keep it OG. We talking sports, so I call what I see. I love the fans like they part of my team. I love the fans like they part of my team. Come rock with me. We got it jumping like it's that valley. I call my dogs out the pound. Let's go eat.
Thank y'all for hopping on with us tonight, man. Like I said, it's the Saturday Night Snap Count on the Fanatic Sports Network. I'm your boy Coach I, man. We're gonna jump right into this, man, and bring our panel up. Y'all know my co-host is the Stat Guy. What's going on, Stat Guy?
Yo, what's going on tonight, Coach?
How you feeling, my man?
Hey, doing good. Ready to talk some little Big 12. Little quick shot for all the 90s wrestling fans out there. The Big 12 intro music this year needs to be the theme song from The Brood because it's fixing to be a bloodbath.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. If y'all out there, man, don't forget to tune in. Hey, go flip back and forth, man. Tune in to the WNBA All-Star Game and things like that. I got it on record, so I'll be able to watch it after the show, man. Bringing our next guy is the Hall of Fame college football, Jason Waktins. What's going on, Jason?
What's up, Coach I, Snap and Stat Guy? What y'all doing, man? Good to see you.
Man. Good to see you, my brother. Hey, man, ready to talk some Big 12 football. We got some interesting takes, man, and I think the Big 12 going to be more interesting than people want to let on, right?
I think it is. I think it's going to be real interesting. There's a lot of new going on all over college football, but nowhere more so than in the Big 12, where you added 4 new teams last year. Lost Oklahoma and Texas, added 4 more this year from the Pac-12. There's a lot of parity, I think, in this conference. So it should be a lot of fun.
Big facts, man. Big facts. And our resident Big 12 guy is Cody Stovall from Locked On Oklahoma State. What's going on, Cody?
Hey, man. Sorry about the background and whatnot. I'm at the hotel, and I'm having some difficulties with my setup. But I'm on the phone. I'm here. I'm ready to talk Big 12 football, of course.
That's right, man. That's right. Listen, man, I told y'all, Saturday Night Snap Count Season 3, we're getting it active this year, man. We got a panel full of guys bringing a different kind of content from representing different teams, different conferences, things of that nature. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Tonight, we are talking Big 12. We've already previewed the ACC. If you didn't get a chance to catch that, go back onto the Fanatic or one of the or the Hall of Fame college football. You can check those out there. We also did the Big 10. Make sure you check those out. Tonight's Big 12, and in 2 weeks, it'll of course be the SEC. And we also, listen, we don't forget about the G5s and the independent. We got a show coming for them as well, man. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. And if you want to see any of these guys on YouTube, except for Andrew, our Penn State guy, man, he's on Twitter. Here is the link. Here's their info right here. It'll all be in the description as well. But just in case you want to check those out, man, JJ, he's a Pitt guy. He knows a lot of stuff about the ACC and other college football. Our guy Shawty, he's on Respect the Hedges with me, representing Georgia, and he actually has a show talking barbershop talk. And then, of course, Cody and Jason talking college football. And our guy Brenski will join us as sooner or later. You know what I'm saying? He's an Alabama guy, but he talks a lot of sports as well. So let's go ahead and jump back into this thing, man. All right, man. It's here. The Big 12, the new look Big 12, 16 teams, no more OU, no more Texas. Cody, how you feeling about that?
I mean, obviously, from a branding perspective, it's going to hurt a little bit. But I also think that the parity in the conference is going to put so much on display that at least every week is going to be extremely competitive. There's not going to be a lot of times where the lower ranked team's not going to have the opportunity to beat the higher ranked team, which does make it, at least to some degree, must watch TV. Now, I do think that it is imperative for the Big 12 this year to capitalize even more so than the year, where TCU did some things against Michigan, but obviously, got their head beaten into the walls in the national title game. This is a year that the Big 12 does need to do a little bit more, but I'm always happy to know that no matter what, that every game is going to be fun and competitive. So it should be worth watching every week.
Shout out to our viewers that's already in the building on each of our two channels, man. Jason's channel and mine. And shout out to Nelio, man. He's a member on both channels, and he's the Fanatic member of the month. So shout out to Nelio. We'll be talking a little K-State. Nelio, me and Stat Guy gave you a shout out on the K-State video that we did. We did a preview, man. So y'all make sure y'all check it out. Hopefully we did you proud, Nelio. Ryman in the building. What's going on, Ryman? Mars Jam in the building. Shelby is in the building. Coach, what's going on? Hey, check him out. Just his humble opinion. You know what I'm saying? Steve B in the building. Timothy in the building. Shelby, there's Shelby. Okay. Garrett in the building. What's going on, Garrett? And the first person that was in the building is our guy, Nathan Campbell. What's going on, Nathan? All right, man. That guy. New look Big 12. Initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts were, did the conference get better? Bigger isn't always better. After doing a little bit of homework, the initial thought is the competition we saw in the Pac-12, where anybody could beat anybody last year, we will be seeing in the Pac-12 this year. And I think it will be the most entertaining conference week in and week out. It may not give you the national champion, but it's going to give you some dang good football for 16 Saturdays.
That's a good take. That's a good take. What about you, Jason? First thoughts on the new look Big 12?
That is a good take, by the way. I think that it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that every week you're going to have dogfights. When you look at Okie Light's schedule, for instance, they start off with K-State or one of the two. It's either Utah or K-State, but then they play the other one right after that. So looking at it, it's, yes, Utah.
And we play Utah, K-State, then West Virginia.
Right. So, I mean, they start off the conference schedule, with a bunch of fist fights. And I think you're going to get a bunch of fist fights in these games anyway. So I'm excited about watching it. I've been a Big 12 guy for a long time. So, it's definitely interesting. I think that you have some contenders, but the list of contenders goes kind of deep. We kind of talked about this before on a couple of other shows that I've been on, Around the Table Sports.
Right.
I think out of 7 dudes that were on that show, we had like 6 different champions.
I'm telling you, I think like we talked about with Pac-12 last year, I think the parity in the league, the evenness of the talent spread out. I mean, listen, it's about, like I say, in my mind, it's about 6 teams that could realistically win this thing. So I think that makes for a good conference. It's not like it's 2 teams and then it's everybody else. Shout out to our guy Nelio again, member of the month, man. Our guy Nelio, always showing support, man. We appreciate you, Nelio. And then he jumps over to Jason. I told y'all this is why Nelio is the guy, man. Like Nelio is. Listen, he supports no matter what kind of content we putting out. You know what I'm saying? So I got some good things to say about your K-State guys in the Nelio, but we'll get to that in a minute. All right. Who else is in the building, man? Ben G pulling up in the building. What's going on, Ben G?
Ben G.
We appreciate you stopping in, man. Cody, we're going to give you the pleasure of either going first or last, your choice on each of the topics, since you are the resident Big 12 guy. Which would you like to do?
I think that's actually up to the fellas. I really don't care. All right. I'm down for whatever direction.
We'll let you back clean up then. We'll start it off. Hopefully we'll get on base and you can knock us all home. Stat Guy, top 3 defense, man. Give us who you think the best defense is going to be, and maybe some guys, some other two or three teams that might be right there with them.
So 1A, 1B. I got Kansas State and Iowa State. Maybe not even talent-wise, but just the style of defense. They just grind it out, it feels like, every year, regardless of who's back there. And then for my third defense, I'm actually going to go with Utah. Kind of the same thing. They play that. I think their style of offense will actually protect the defense, and that complementary football will make the defense maybe a little bit better than what it actually is.
I can get with that. I think y'all know I'm always talking complimentary football. As you can tell, I'm a Kirby head. Kirby Smart's always saying that as well. But if you're watching college football, man, if you got a good offense, it doesn't matter if offense and defense don't play together. And I think that in the starters returning, and the things that they did last year, if you looked at it totality, scoring, defense, returning. Last year, Utah was out of all these teams. Utah was ranked the highest in scoring defense last year and yards given up per game. They were 20th in the nation in scoring defense, 17th in the yards given up. And then my next defense, it's going to be here. It's going to be more of one like 2B, 2A, 2B, something like that. K-State and Arizona State, they were both right around the same on scoring defense and total yards. They're both bringing back the same amount, almost the same amount of production. But one team that I think could make some noise and get up in there is Oklahoma State, because when I looked at all these rankings, whether on offense or defense, they were like the next team out, the fourth or fifth team out, and they bring back, according, Stat Guy told us this, they bring back 10 of their 11 starters on defense. So, and experience matters.
Yeah.
So that's what I got. I got Utah, and then like kind of a tie between Arizona and K-State, with Oklahoma State maybe making some noise. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I think I think you have to automatically look at Iowa State because of Matt Campbell and what they genuinely do. But I agree that Oklahoma State should be very good. Right. They're in their second year under their defensive coordinator, Brian Nardo. He's been that guy. I'll let Cody kind of talk more about that. But when you look at probably one of the better linebackers in the country, Nick Martin, they're going to be really good. I do like Iowa State. As Matt Campbell's always putting a great defense on the field. If it wasn't for him, I mean, if you look back at the history of Iowa State football, it is so bleak until Matt got there. So he built it on defense. They also have a pretty good quarterback. I like them a lot.
Okay.
But the usual suspects is the usual suspects. I would say that K-State's also going to be right there with them and Utah, because that's what they do. They play football, or they play defense. So.
Yeah, right. All of them play hard-nosed football. All right, Cody, go ahead and clean this thing up for us, man. Your top 3 defenses and maybe a team to look out for.
Well, I think, everybody pretty much hit the nail on the head. Due to the parity in the league, you could kind of go up and down the line, and you can make an argument for most of those ball clubs. I've made the argument for Oklahoma State so many times. For Utah specifically, I think from a defensive line and linebacker perspective, they make a lot of sense. They have a lot of experience returning there. My concern with Utah would be the back end, right? I believe they've lost 7 or 8 of their defensive backfield when it comes to safeties and corners. So I think maybe that would be, something that would be a holdup for me there. K-State, of course, talent-wise, they're going to be as good as everybody. But we all know that senior leadership, especially in that style of system, typically is something that you're looking for. So I think some of the maturity issues might pop up for K-State. Oklahoma State, we are returning that crazy amount of production. We do have a significant amount of size. Whenever you look at Oklahoma State's defensive line, it looks like, it's got some of these SEC style of guys, right? So, yeah. Now, by and large, though, I think the biggest sleeper is going to be West Virginia. Everyone's talking about Coach Aycock's defense at Iowa State because it is legendary, and his iteration of the 3-3-5 is considerably different than a lot of teams in the country. But West Virginia is one of those teams that went 9-4. They return over 85% of their roster, including some decent amount of production on the defensive side of the ball. So I think West Virginia might be a big sleeper on the defensive side here as well.
All good takes, man. And Jason, you made a good point about Oklahoma State being in the second year of their defensive coordinator. A lot of times the second year is when you see the biggest jump in percentage of, I guess you would say, experience or, increase play on the field. So that could play a lot in it. And Iowa State, I think maybe we could see some of these numbers look, maybe, I ain't gonna say they're gonna be inflated, but I'm just saying, like, when you add in Utah and take out Oklahoma, you're kind of giving up some of the offense, right? And then if you take out Texas, that's taking out more offense. And then you did bring in Colorado. Now, when researching, Shadur is definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, but their offense didn't score a lot, and they wasn't in the top 50 in scoring or yards. So, I mean, it's kind of like you gave up some of the offense by losing Texas and Oklahoma, and you brought in some teams that weren't as fluent on offense. You know what I'm saying? So I think some of the numbers could look better this year. I'm not saying that they won't be good teams defensively, but some of the numbers could look a little bit inflated.
Yeah, I kind of think that when it comes to that, when you look at Utah, they didn't have Cam Rising last year, so they didn't look very good on the offensive side of the ball. But Arizona, they've got McMillan coming back and Fafita. Most of their offensive line, I believe. Now, changing the coaches, I don't care if you've got your team intact or not. Changing coaches can be detrimental for continuity and that kind of stuff when it comes to the offensive play. But I think that the fact that you have those two guys, they're probably going to go out there and put up some O. I still feel like, Shedeur and them, all they really got to do is keep Shedeur upright, and they're going to put up points because, I mean, he still had a great year and he got sacked 50 times, and he still had a really good year. So I expect their offense to kind of take a step forward in that regard. And then, you look at K-State and they already had a nice little backfield thing going on, and now they added Dylan as well. And bro, they already had it. I mean, they had it going already. So to me, when you do that, they're going to have to be on their game on defense in order for it to look good. There's going to be some offensive. And even Kansas, you got to think about if of course you get a healthy Jalen Daniels, they've got a nice backfield too. So, there's some offensive teams that can go out there and put up yards and points.
Definitely. And speaking of offense, man, we're going to jump into those offenses. Jason, you talked about a lot of the offenses I was talking about, but one team that I didn't, when looking at total yards, UCF actually, out of all the teams that are currently in the Big 12, they were ranked 8th in not in the Big 12, but a team in the country in yards. Now, why they wasn't like they was 39th in scoring, but so because I tell people all the time, yards don't always equate to scoring. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you stall out on drives and stuff like that. But I'm gonna let you start this one out, dog. Like the offenses that you're looking at this year in the Big 12.
Yeah. So for me, and again, I guess for me, I look at it a little bit different. It's probably the three offenses I'm most excited to see, right? Not necessarily if they're going to be ending up the top three offenses and rankings or that, but number one is Kansas State by far with their three-headed monster that they have. Bringing back Giddens, who is a 1,200-yard back, adding Dylan Edwards, and then now Avery Johnson at quarterback, who looked amazing in the bowl game, and it's just going to make that running game that much scarier. So they're by far my favorite. I'm looking forward to watching. Second is going to be Oklahoma State, just for they're bringing back 10 starters on offense. It's a Mike Gundy system. I think he's kind of figured out what he has with Ollie Gordon, and I think we're going to see more of his old-style passing game mixed in this year, and seeing what Alan Bowman can do with that. I think that's going to be a really fun offense. And then you hit it. UCF, you got KJ Jefferson transferring there, and it's almost like he's built to run a Gus Malzahn offense. So I'm definitely excited to see what he looks like under center for the Knights.
Okay, I'm with that. Jason, you want to jump in there? I know you already had some great points, and I got somebody I got to ask y'all a question about why they can't put it together. But go ahead, Jason.
I think that Kansas State is probably the best offense. I would definitely say that Kansas has an opportunity to. I have a hard time believing that Jalen Daniels is going to be available. So in the end, that kind of hurts them,
right?
But I would probably say K-State, UCF, Arizona / maybe Oklahoma State.
Okay. I mean that's fair. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I think that's fair. Oklahoma State was 42nd in scoring defense, right behind. Let me see. I mean, yeah. 42nd, right behind UCF, like in scoring offense.
Yeah, and they didn't start until game 4, really.
Right. So just think about it. If Mike Gundy comes locked in, You know what I'm saying? At the beginning of the season, they returned again an astounding number of starters, 10 on offense. And you got the Doak Walker Award winner, the best running back in the nation, you know, from last year returning. So they could definitely make some noise. Before Cody gets in here and tells us, I just want to ask you, like, so TCU, when I was looking it up, TCU, out of all the teams, TCU, you know, in the Big 12 is ranked 4th in the Big 12 of what they did last year scoring. They were 34th in the nation. And then they were 2nd in yards per game. They were 10th in the nation last year. So that means, I guess that means their defense had to be trash, you know what I'm saying? So I just want y'all to think about that, and we'll talk about TCU a little bit after Cody goes.
Offensively, right, you know, I think you could put Oklahoma State at the top of a lot of lists, so I'm not going to do that. What I am going to say is if I were to not include Oklahoma State, for that 3rd spot, it definitely cannot be KU. I would put KU number 1. I know there's some questions about Jalen Daniels, but when it comes to health, those same questions are applicable to Cam Rising at Utah. If Cam Rising is healthy, then I think Utah might have the best offense in the Big 12. But the complement that KU has in the backfield, I think on top of Jalen Daniels separates them. But we are going to see something similar at K-State, because of the speed of Avery Johnson, and now the two-headed monster that most of you have already mentioned, put them at a different category. But once again, I'm going to sound like I'm propping up West Virginia this season. Nobody's talking about the fact that this is Garrett Green's 2nd season, and if we're going to talk about the speed of Avery Anderson, then we have to talk about his speed as well. And when it comes to UCF, KJ Jefferson, I do think that from an offensive standpoint, it does, you know, kind of feel somewhat reminiscent of maybe something that would have been ran at Auburn. Yeah, and I know people get that feeling. I just don't – I'm not a huge buyer in KJ Jefferson, which is why I would not put UCF up there, even though I do think RJ Harvey's probably, you know, number 2, number 3 best back in the league, right next to somebody like a Taj Brooks or a Devin Neal.
Right. Listen, the thing about it, Avery Johnson is a dual threat, just like, you know, Garrett Green. And I think why some people that say Garrett Green is a sleeper is because of the dual threat. Last year, he threw for 2,400 yards and another almost 800 on the ground. He didn't throw for a lot of passing touchdowns like some of the other guys we'll talk about, you know, later tonight. But I think that the threats that guy of him being a dual threat guy is why, like even PFF. I mean, I know some people rely on that. I look at it for stats type deal, but not for their opinion. But they say he's kind of underrated because of the dual threat.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of times it's who's doing it as far as what they are looking for in a quarterback instead of necessarily what that system needs for a quarterback, right? Like what y'all have at your school is what y'all need. And so it's like a lot of times you look at guys, and I think we've gotten away from the talk of people being system quarterbacks. But I really think that when teams find success, they find the quarterback to run their system, whether it's a dual threat or whether it's a pure pocket passer or maybe somebody that's mobile enough to keep the play alive. So while he maybe not getting the talk that he deserves because of the dual threat nature, and he's not putting up the huge passing touchdowns, he is what the offense needs to be productive. Okay.
So Shawty gets in and says KJ, he doesn't really think KJ is that physical of a runner as far as the mentality. Of course, he's a physical big body. He's like he's big, but he doesn't play physical. Do you think Cody like that? Because Gus Malzahn needs a running quarterback. Like he would scramble at Arkansas, but I don't know if it was always a lot of called runs for him per se.
All right. Well, since you're going to ask me to say it, yeah, KJ plays like a big baby, and I don't really think that he's going to be the right guy. I don't think that he's massively better than Timmy Flippin McClain, nor do I think that he's going to be better than John Rice Plumlee. I think John Rice Plumlee was adequately more for what the system is entailing. But yeah, I know a lot of people believe in KJ, but God forbid KJ has to throw the ball. I know this is like accusatory and labeling, but I'm labeling him so you can accuse me of it. The dude can't throw the ball, and he don't want to run between the tackles, and he ain't fast enough to go get out in the damn numbers.
Well, that's definitely true. He's definitely not a fast quarterback. I don't know if he definitely not a run first mentality guy. Now, once he does decide to run, he's a load to bring down. The dude, I don't know how tall he is, but he definitely weighs a lot. But he's
Coach
gonna have to take.
I'm a load to bring down, and I don't run all that fast. All right.
Hey, listen, in Gus Malzahn's system, if he does it, somebody else is gonna have to do it. Gus Malzahn has to have a dual threat quarterback.
You gotta run. You got
I was gonna say the one issue with UCF, and it kind of fits. Unfortunately, it kind of fits a lot of teams right now in this conference. Is you have quarterbacks with checkered past when it comes to injuries, and KJ Johnson got beat to heck last 2 years. KJ Jefferson got beat to heck. There's so many Johnsons. KJ Jefferson got beat to heck the last 2 years in the SEC and spent most of the time banged up. And I wonder if that's why we saw the decline in run from what he was doing his freshman and sophomore year. Maybe he's healthy this year and we see more of that freshman or sophomore version where he's just putting his head down and going and getting it.
Okay. I mean, I thought KJ Jefferson did pretty good.
I don't think it's sustainable in the conference all year.
I got you.
I like KJ himself.
I think KJ. I don't think KJ. You know, we're going to talk about our top quarterbacks in the conference. Like, I don't think he's top 3, 4, or nothing like that. But I mean, I think he's good for what Gus Malzahn wants to do. And I mean, he's going to have to prove that he can run it on a multiple, throughout the game. It's not going to be like a one here and there in the scramble. There's called plays in Gus Malzahn's offense for the quarterback to run. Rice Plumlee, to Cody's point, was like way more athletic. I mean, like Jason said, he came out as a receiver / quarterback.
Receiver, yeah.
Right. Yeah. He was because he initially had a scholarship offer and committed to Georgia to Glacier as a backup quarterback, but they really didn't want to play quarterback. Like you say, play receiver, but he wanted to play quarterback. So he went to, I want to say, Ole Miss, and then it's UCF. So definitely a dude that can run better than KJ Jefferson. So I think a lot for UCF this year will be riding on KJ Jefferson, though. And I think
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I mean,
Jason, you better tell him. You better tell him I run better than KJ Jefferson. You better tell him.
You don't run better than nobody there. You know better than that. Come on.
So, C. John, what's going on? He says Avery Johnson, if fast, quick, but he's fast and quick, but he's light. Injury is a major concern. I would offensive scheme that protects him, like rolling out the pass misdirection plays with Giddens. And I think Cody kind of touched on this earlier with Giddens, Edwards, and Johnson's legs at K-State. And K-State has always been a good running team. So that's just like, if you let them get the lead on you, especially if it's a double-digit lead, good luck trying to come back if you can't stop the run. You know what I'm saying? Because you got 3 guys now, and Dylan Edwards is that home run guy that could easily take it to the house. So
yeah.
Let's see.
Well, guys, I mean, how difficult. It's always been incredibly difficult for any team to ever prepare for any type of triple option attack, right? So if you go throughout the course of your season and you have to prepare for Navy or Army or Air Force for one game, that one game, even though you know exactly what you're going to get, technically, it's hard to replicate that in scout team. It's hard to replicate it in practice. So it's really hard to stop. If K-State can now run that style of system with that level of speed and somebody who can throw the ball, K-State's going to be a massive problem.
Big facts, and they had the 18th ranked. The 9th ranked scoring offense last year. K-State did, and then they just added. Like I say, I think they, as far as on the ground, and I didn't watch Will Howard like every weekend or whatever, but me and Stat was checking, and a lot of K-State fans is kind of like, oh well, we got Avery Johnson type deal.
When he was in the clutch times, he wasn't good. So I think that they definitely upgraded by getting him out of there. I think that Ohio State may be in a good shape by bringing him in. He might be a better fit for what they do at Ohio State. But I think for what they do at Kansas State, Avery Johnson is the perfect quarterback for them.
Right, and Nelia gets in and say he called him Sunshine because of the locks he got, but he says he got a great arm too. He was at the Elite 11, and he also says he's probably not gonna run that much. And I could understand that with DJ Giddens and Dylan Edwards in the backfield, but it just adds an added dimension. You know what I'm saying?
And Matt Wells is their new coordinator too. So he's not. They do a lot of read option stuff, but it's not going to be the exact same thing that what you see. They want him to throw the football.
Right. Ryman, you think KJ, listen, I like KJ, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's getting drafted. That's just me. I think undrafted maybe try to make the team, but you say 4th round or better. Listen, I think that'll be a upgrade for him. Shawty say KJ making business decisions this year. He's not trying to take no hits. He think of NFL. I just know he's gonna have to throw it better. And he get drafted. That's all I.
His decision be to throw the hell out of the ball then, because he's not gonna do it.
Right.
I'm telling y'all right now, if he gets drafted in the 4th round or higher, he had the greatest pro day a tight end's ever had, because that's what he's going to be playing in the NFL. He's going to be looking like Bart Brown was at pro day.
That was a great
and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jason Spangler. He says the ESPN FBI ranking has Kansas far and away #1 ranking in the Big 12. Hey, listen, we're high on Kansas as well. The question is for Kansas, do we think they can do it? Can Daniel stay healthy? He literally has been there since 2020 and hasn't finished the season. Hasn't played more than 9 games in the season, by the way. And the season's a minimum of 12 games. So he's got to play more than 9 games for you guys to, have a chance at winning the Big 12, because again, you got a lot of talent spread out. I mean, we just talked about defenses and offenses, and we're going to get into the quarterbacks. It's a lot of talent like spread out evenly through the conference. This what we saw with the Pac-12 last year. I think, like Stat Guy opened up with, we're going to see that with the Big 12 this year. You just got that. These just got it all across, the conference like that. But let's we'll talk about the quarterbacks, and then we'll talk about who we actually think. And I think all of us we may have them in different orders, but the contenders are all going to kind of be the same, maybe. And then we'll talk about some games that you guys should watch. I did bring up TCU earlier. TCU, when I was looking up the offense, TCU had the 34th ranked scoring offense and the 10th ranked yards per game. Why? I mean, Cody, I'm pretty sure you watched them a little bit more than us. Why couldn't they get it done? Because Sonny Dykes is a pretty good coach.
Go ahead, Cody.
Cody, can you hear us? I don't know.
Cody, did you hear?
I don't think Cody
maybe
can
not.
hear us. Maybe not.
No,
Go ahead.
sorry. Y'all froze or I froze.
We can hear you, but you can't hear us. So
okay.
I'll jump in and answer that though, Coach.
right.
I think to me, you look at week 1 and the Colorado game is the prime example. 45-42, I mean, just pure shootout. And I think it just that was pretty much their season. They were scoring, they just couldn't get that stop on defense to win enough football games to get over the hump.
This is Ryman Lemon's comment about KJ before I let you go, Jason. He's saying it'll be a project. That's why I say I think that somebody will pick him up as an undrafted, undrafted prospect and make him have to earn his way. And that's actually better for KJ. He'll have 3 or 4 calls after the draft, and he'll get to, kind of pick between the 2 or 3 that call him or whatever. I just don't see him as a 4th rounder, like unless like Stat Guy says, dude's playing tight end or something. So go ahead, Jason. You can jump in on that TCU and Sonny Dykes.
No, I see TCU as one of those teams that's one of the dark horses to win this conference, to be quite honest with you. I think that they have a really good schedule for them to set up. I mean, if you look at it, they do go to Utah, but they don't play K-State. They have Oklahoma State at home, Tech at home, some of the teams that you would think are going to be some of their better ones. And they're projected, the CFB professor guy projects them to go 10-2. And with the ceiling of like 11-1, and his, the one thing I'll say is he's been pretty good as far as his projections are concerned on that model. They've got some toss-up games. It could be as low as 8-4, but I think that's why I said dark horse. I agree with you about what Sonny is. He's a hell of a coach. I think he's very underrated as a coach, because you know, you think about what that was a couple of years ago. You can say what you want, but they won a bunch of one-score games and had some comebacks. And I mean, once you get kind of rolling in that direction, you can see that happening. But I mean, let's be real. They went and then they beat Michigan in the playoff too. So let's not just act like, you know, I guess we got smoked in the national championship game. I get it.
Right.
They didn't have the trenches to line up with Georgia. You know,
right. I think everybody kind of grazes over that first year with Sonny Dykes, and they beat, like I say, even if they say, I know a lot of people on social media was like, oh, y'all paid like 6 backups, but they didn't play a backup quarterback when they played Michigan. So, I mean, all of that was kind of out the door when they earned that right. C. John says, Daniels from Kansas might be the most talented quarterback in the conference, but yeah, his back injuries is a huge problem. No more, right? That's a good take right there, C. John. No more Jason Bean to come in and save the day. Now,
it's true.
It's a Division I school, so they got some people on the roster. We don't know anything about him, but to back him up, but he's going to have to stay healthy. So I mean, that's just what it is. So I'm interested to see
put himself in position to get hurt, and he does that a lot.
Right. But that's a part of his game, though. You know what I'm saying? It's like
with the running back duel that they have back there and the receivers they have, you don't have to do that.
Right.
Get out of the pocket and throw, but get down whenever you need to.
That's the thing. He's going to run, but he's got to learn to pull up, slide, get down, run out of bounds, those kind of things, and not take unnecessary hits.
Yeah, 2 years in a row, he's been hurt too much. So
right.
I'll be honest. The thing that scares me the most about him is the mental. I look at it with some other players we've seen that didn't come back from injuries that then after the season, you found out they were cleared to play for weeks. I think mentally he just isn't strong enough to deal with the beating and banging of a full season. I mean, you said it yourself. This is his 5th year. Hasn't finished a season yet. And I get it. I mean, as a running quarterback, you're going to take some shots. As a quarterback, you're going to get sacked. But like to say, oh, I'm not going to practice so I can play this week, and then to wake up Saturday morning and be like, my back is spasm. Like, to me, that's not you got to be a dog to play college football. And I just don't think he has the dog mentality to lead Kansas to where they're trying to get to as far as a Big 12 championship.
Hey, that could be. We, like you said, we have seen some of that stuff. Not just injury, but when somebody has a good year, and then maybe it's the coach, maybe it's like I saw, outside the Big 12. I think that's what happened to Tyler Van Dyke. Him and Cristobal just didn't vibe some reason, and he hasn't been able to get that mojo back. So I mean, but the thing is, when we see Daniels at Kansas and he's on the field, the dude is electric. You know what I'm saying? So the thing is, he just has to stay on the freaking field, man.
And the one last point on that, and it's something I know Jason's brought up before, they lost their offensive coordinator. So we don't know what the offense, we don't know if the offense was Leopold or if it was him or if it was
Leipold's offense always. It's always been Lance Leipold's offense. But I would say, I don't know about their new coordinator, but they're not changing that offense for sure.
Okay. That's going to be interesting. Spangler says there's no reason for Daniels to run around. Yep, just like Jason was saying, there's too much talent. But sometimes, hey, man, if a guy's a runner, man.
But
if you take that away from him, but he needs to get down if he's going to do it, though. You got to be smart about it at this point, because Jason Bean was a hell of a quarterback as a backup, and won a lot of games for him as a backup. But they don't really have the guy that they have now. I think he's pretty young. Probably not ready for that. Well, maybe he is. I don't know. Yeah. But I think that Lance Leipold does a great job as coach. So maybe they have a situation where they can bring in a guy. But it seems like an awful big risk to put all your eggs in the basket of Jalen Daniels.
Right. So go ahead, Stegan.
I was going to say, I think part of the reason that his passing game is so effective is you have to spy him. You have to keep containment and stuff. If he becomes one-dimensional and becomes a pocket passer, and defensive lines can pin their ears and come get him, and you can use an extra linebacker in coverage, he's not nearly effective as a passer, and the running backs aren't nearly as effective because you take out the wild card that is him and what he can do with his feet.
Right. Just to let y'all know, man, Cody's having some technical difficulties. Wherever he is, it's storming pretty hard, so that's why he is That's why he is had it just kind of, I guess he couldn't hear us, so he's said he's having some technical difficulties. Ben G, of course, it wouldn't be a night without Sooners and Texas going at it. Ben says Bean was a hell of a QB ? Maybe against OU.
They won 9 freaking games, and Jalen Daniels played like 2
Got
of
him.
them.
Got him. Got him.
So, but yeah, man, I think we all agree injury or health status is his thing, man. So just to jump into those, man, top 5 quarterbacks. I'll let you start out, Jason. Give me your top 5 quarterbacks, at least who you think will be the top 5 quarterbacks going into the year.
Dang. Top 5. I think Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback. I think that it's either him or Jalen Daniels, but I think it's Shedeur. The only reason I probably go with Shedeur first is because of the fact that Jalen, I don't know that he stays healthy, but
gotcha.
I would also keep him. I mean, they're 1A to me. I think Cam Rising would be next. He's that guy. I like him a lot. I like Avery Johnson quite a bit. I think he's still pretty young for us to like label him that guy yet.
Right.
But I do like Noah Fafita is another one. So you know, so that's 4, I guess, or no 3. I got Jalen.
You got Shedeur, Jalen, Noah, and Cam.
Yeah, Noah and Cam. Yeah, Cam being the 3rd and probably like 2. So
right.
Yeah, okay. So Noah and Cam, and then let's see. Yeah, I mean Jalen Daniels has definitely got to be in there because whether or not I don't know how much he plays, but I do think that talent-wise, he's right there. Right.
Okay.
So,
we got Cody on the phone. Cody, give us your top quarterbacks in the Big 12 with the top 5 quarterbacks.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hey, I can tell you who's not number 1, and that's fucking Shedeur Sanders. All right, Shedeur Sanders, I think, is a very talented.
Chill
I think
out
he's
on
talented.
the F-bombs, Cody. Chill out on the F-bombs.
Oh, my apologies.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't think Shedeur Sanders would be my number 1, but I dang sure don't think that Alan Bowman would be either. My number 1 for me is going to be Shedeur Sanders. No, I'm just kidding. Number 1, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Number 1 quarterback in the Big 12 for me has got to be Jalen Daniels. I think if he can stay healthy, I know that's a big if. And I heard you guys, talking a little bit about Jalen and some of his propensity to be injured. I think a big thing, if you look at somebody like a Kyler Murray or a Baker Mayfield, it's not necessarily about the elusivity. It's about the ability to get down at the right time. There's a lot of mobile quarterbacks that are just really good at not absorbing the contact. So I think more than anything, it's got to be that. But I think another layer to Jalen Daniels is the fact that athletically, he's had to do so much on his own for so long because of some of the lack of talent around him on the offensive line. But I think this year they've got some beef up front. They've got some of the abilities now to keep him a little bit more upright. And as much crap as I'm talking on Shedeur Sanders, I will say Shedeur Sanders is number 2. I don't think that he provides the same thing to a team that Jalen Daniels does. Colorado is going to have, a significant amount of talent, so we'll see. I expect Jimmy Horn to have a big year. And then number 3 quarterback in the Big 12 for me, it's if we see the improvements that I think we've seen thus far in the spring, I think you could put Alan Bowman up there. The interceptions is a massive issue, but the kid did throw for almost 3,200 yards. We do have every single wide receiver back as well as every single offensive line. So I think Oklahoma State, could naturally be in that conversation for Alan Bowman. And then, outside of that, you got to put Cam Rising up there. I mean, I think most people would say you put Cam Rising above Alan Bowman. And I think that would be absolutely 100% fair to do. And then as much shade as I want to throw his way because of the wide receivers, I am very intrigued to see what Rocco Becht is able to do this year, because I think that Iowa State has 2 of the top 5 wide receivers in the conference and 2 of the top 15 best wide receivers in the country.
That I agree with. I like Rocco. Yeah.
All right. Stat guy, on you, man. Your top quarterbacks in the Big 12, man, top 5.
So for me, number 1 is Avery Johnson. And the reason why is because I believe Kansas State is going to have the number 1 offense in the Big 12. And if you quarterback the best offense in the conference, you are the best quarterback in the conference. Again, just kind of my take on it. Second for me is going to be Fofoto from Arizona.
Fafita.
Fafita from Arizona. You know, I need the Hooked on Phonics version. So I need
All
you to
right.
start flashing names and stuff for me on the screen so I can sound them out. I think, you know, with his boy McMillan to throw to, that offense should be a lot of fun this year, even with the new coach. And he's just kind of a playmaker. Number 3 for me is going to be Cam Rising. Again, a lot of it has to do with health and if he can stay healthy, but he's probably the best pure quarterback in the entire conference. Number 4 to me is Alan Bowman, and it's just a pure stat thing. He's going to probably put up ridiculous numbers. I think he's probably going to throw to close to 4,000 yards this year. And then number 5 for me, Jason and Cody stole my thunder, but I was going with Rocco at number 5. I'm really excited about what he's going to do at Iowa State.
Okay, I can get with that. Spangler says, does Colorado have a respectable O-line? Last season was laughable. True. And listen, when we're just talking about the quarterback themselves as a player, I think definitely Shedeur is up there. But like Stat Guy said, you're a part of an offense. So he always, they have talented wide receivers. He's a very talented quarterback. But can they keep him upright? I'm telling you, 55 sacks ain't going to get it this year.
Nope.
Ain't nothing close to it.
Yeah, he completed almost 70% of his passes and had freaking 27 touchdowns and just 3 turnovers. So regardless of whatever happens this year on that offensive line, that's about whether they're going to win or not, or they're going to be able to win any game. So to me, I don't think that Colorado's going and winning the damn conference at all. Right. I think they could make it bad on some teams to win the conference towards the end of the year. I think that they've got some games against contenders that, if you lose that game, and you could, if it turns into a shootout type of game, you're in trouble.
Well, and I tell you, I went back and forth, right? If it makes you feel any better, Stat Guy, when it came to that last spot between, Rocco Becht and what gave it to me was the fact that what Noah Fafita has at Arizona is outside of Teterow and McMillan. I don't know that they have what Iowa State has at wide receiver. That's why I leaned Rocco Becht.
That's a good decision. Good decision. I had a comment here. C. John says Stat Guy with no Shedeur Sanders is an interesting take.
Yeah, I ain't buying the Coach Prime and his son's pipe dream. Sell it somewhere else.
Listen, so for me, man, my list is similar to a couple of guys y'all had. I actually do have Shedeur as the number 1 quarterback because of what he had to go through. And if you watch him, actually, the dude he can pass the ball, man.
He's a baller, bro.
And we talk about the offensive line, but his run game was trash too. So it was literally just him and the wide receivers. And to be able to throw and complete 70% of your passes with no running game, no offensive line, none of that kind of stuff. What's going on, Anthony? And still do what he did. I think that puts him, we're talking just about the quarterback themselves, not about the offense per se. I got him at number 1. As far as the quarterback, I got Noah Fafita next. I'm high on Noah Fafita, and I know he only got the one wide receiver that we know about. I like the offense from last year. Their numbers they put up, I know they switched coaches this year, but that guy he's been coaching at the FCS level or the Group of 5 level, I should say.
The Lamonius Craig guy is still there too with him, who came from Colorado. So that's another receiver they've got at Arizona.
So I like Fafita's upside. I think if we're talking about upside, I think he's probably got, outside of Daniels, he's probably got the best upside. And then Cam Rising, because he's a winner. He's probably the best decision maker on the list. Now he can't throw the ball like the rest of these guys, but he when they're there, they're at the top of their game. And he does have those offensive lines and the weapons around him, but he makes the best decision. And then I got Daniels. Daniels will be higher again if he could stay healthy. He's 4 seasons, 2 of them, I think, as the incoming starter, and hasn't played more than 9 games yet. So it's like, I need you to play more than 9 games so I can put you higher up. And we'll get to this question. This is a good question, Garrett. We'll get to that here in a minute.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And then my 5th spot is kind of like a mixture of 3 quarterbacks. I couldn't really get them in there. It's Rocco Becht. Listen, in Gus Malzahn's system, if KJ Jefferson accepts the running role, then KJ Jefferson, and then Garrett Green because of the dual threat. Like I say, he had 16 passing touchdowns, which isn't, overwhelming, but he had 13 rushing touchdowns and almost 1,000 yards on the ground. He had 800 yards on the ground. So I think that makes him, a formidable guy. Garrett gets in here and says, which Big 12 team do you think would trade their QB for Sanders?
All of them. No, not all of them, but most of them would. I think most of them would.
I think UCF would.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oklahoma State sure as shit would.
Yeah, we probably would. Yes.
Right. I think West Virginia would. I honestly, if it's not Noah Fafita, Cam Rising, or Jalen Daniels, I think everybody trades for him.
I think so too. I even think
and because Shadur was
as well, and I like Avery Johnson.
Right, and I think K-State would. I think Kansas would. If you're talking about what we know about them getting hurt, this dude got sacked 55 times and played all but like half of a game or something like that.
Great question.
My thing with Jalen Daniels, it was that he could legitimately change a game by himself, right? I mean, there's not many quarterbacks that I recall watching. Right, Baker was one of them. Kyler was one of them. Patrick Mahomes was one of them. That they could literally be down by 20-something in the fourth quarter, and the game still wasn't over. Jalen Daniels is that kind of player to me.
Gotcha. That's a good call, Cody. I think so too, and I think Kansas is a real player in this conference, man. He's both. You reiterated. Jason brought it up. He's got to learn to slide. He's got to learn to run out of bounds. He's got to learn to throw it away and not take the extra lick. So
right. I think he has a propensity to feel like he needs to have play a little bit of hero ball. I think, this is the season that somebody just needs to pull him aside and say, listen, man, you have weapons. You have a legitimate offensive line now. Stop running everywhere. You can't tell him not to run, right? Because it's part of his game. It's what makes him so difficult to defend is that if you try to spy him, he can beat you with his arm. And if you don't spy him, he is going to pick up enough to get a first down. So, yeah, it's honestly, you guys mentioned it earlier in the beginning of the show, the Big 12 quarterback play this year is going to be somewhat reminiscent of the days when quarterback play in the Big 12 was a big deal, when you had Bryce Petty and you had Mason Rudolph and you had, Sam Bradford. There's years where the Big 12 carried their weight off of quarterback. And I don't know that that's going to be the case this year because the running back depth in the Big 12 is absolutely preposterous. But the quarterbacks, I think, are going to surprise some people this year in the conference.
Right. And Timothy gets in and says that says Garrett Green will be honorable mention. I showed Garrett a little love, Timothy. I say, I don't think he's the passer that the other guys are, but I think he is the dual threat. And in a third down and short situation, that can make you better passing because they may stack the box. And now they're leaving a lot of your guys one-on-one. And then it's up to whether those guys can, get open or not.
Well, for somebody – oh, sorry, buddy. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cody.
I was going to say, for somebody who's not familiar with Big 12 play, if somebody were to say, if Avery Johnson cut his hair and I can watch film last season on who Avery Johnson can be, I would tell you to watch film on Garrett Green with a better arm. That's how I would explain Avery Johnson.
Gotcha.
My thing about Garrett is that we didn't see them win, but I think one game the last half of the season or maybe the whole season against a winning team. So there was some times that against some of the better teams that he made some mistakes. He didn't look very good against Oklahoma. And I think that, Kuz was saying that on that show after that. They were upset about the way that they played against Oklahoma. And so
did Quinn Ewers look good against y'all though, Jason?
He did not. That's true.
Just a little point for Garrett.
All I'm saying is though that he did it in a lot of games. Now he looked good against BYU the week after that.
Right.
So
But some people, I think that could have something to do with Brent Venables being able to scheme for him better than maybe some of those teams you were talking about. But to your point, you do need to be considered one of the better quarterbacks. You do need to beat some teams. You know what I'm saying? So
I like him better as a runner than a passer, though. Is all I'm saying.
Right. Kind of like a John Rice Plumlee, to be honest.
Well, and guys, I don't want to get too hung up on the quarterback thing, because I'm sure you guys want to move on. But if we're gonna have one more honorable mention, I think Baron Morton at Texas Tech should be somebody that people could pay attention to this year.
Okay, go ahead.
And I got a question for the panel, Coach. Do we not think that the Big 12 is far and ahead better at defense than the Pac-12? because that's something that nobody's mentioned about Shador and his 70% passing completion. He got sacked 57 times in the worst defensive conference that's ever been put together.
That's right. That's right. I think that's fair to say that the defense's total will be better, because I would say last year Utah, Oregon, and Arizona were the only defenses really that made any noise in the Pac-12, to be honest with you. And now we've kind of went through, now it's Utah, of course, and Arizona, but the K-States and the Kansas. And actually, West Virginia wasn't too far behind Kansas in scoring defense last year. So, and they returned about 7 or 8 starters. So it may be harder for them. Now, the question again goes back to, can they protect him? I think Shador can throw the ball. I just think, can they protect him? And that's
they did add a really good offensive line coach. They added some guys in the portal that you would hope that they can gel them together a little bit. And I think that with Pat Shurmur as their offensive coordinator, of course he's an NFL guy, but I think that he's probably put an offense together that, as much as I'm a fan of Sean Lewis, I like him. I do think that maybe that this deal, what they're looking for from him, you'll get a little better out of Shurmur, because he's been able to scheme against NFL teams before to keep quarterbacks upright. And I think that with the guy like that, they brought in the assistant offensive line coach from Oklahoma. We know what we feel about Bill Bedenbaugh. So, and I think they're going to be okay there. Are they good enough to keep him from getting 50 sacks? I would hope. I certainly hope it's more like 25 or 30, or else you're.
Well, the 55, if you can go down to 35, even that you don't want 35, but if you can go from 55 to 35, I think that helps out a lot.
A lot of that is on him to get the ball out, though, too.
Right. That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. Hey, man, y'all watching the Saturday Night Snap Count on the Fan Addict Sports Network. Before we move on, man, listen, if you're watching on the Fan Addict, make sure you hit that thumbs up so you can like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share the content. That's thing. And if you're watching on college football, Hall of Fame college football with Jason and the coach, if you haven't already, subscribe to that channel. Hit the likes up there. And here is how you can find all of our Snap Count panel members. Everybody's on YouTube except for Andrew, our Penn State guy, but he does contribute to the Sideline Sports Network Penn State account on Twitter, and that's how you can find him. I know JJ's is kind of small, but it's just Talking College Football with JJ Kitchen. These are the @ symbols. If you don't know how to search somebody on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook and you want to watch these guys, just go to YouTube, click in the search, and type the @ and then the name that's showing right now. You got @CFB with JJ Kitchen, Shawty Parker 758, Fan Addict Sports, and then, like I say, Andrew is Twitter, and then Jason is @CFB-pod. Cody is @Locked On Oklahoma State, and Brenski, if you ever listen, show up. Show up. Brenski's our guy.
Where's Brenski? Come on.
I know Brenski has good content. He talks all sports, and he's an Alabama guy, but @Sharpshooters Podcast. So just wanted to get that in there, man. We're gonna move on, man. Let's get to some contenders. I think we kind of talked about it, contenders and pretenders. I want to know, like, some people's sleepers to win the conference. I think everybody thinks Utah is definitely a contender, right? Depending on Utah, K-State. I would say Utah, K-State, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and that's what I got because of what's coming back. I think maybe West Virginia, Utah, maybe West Virginia, UCF, and Colorado can get in the mix and spoil some games for some people, but I don't know about winning the conference. Stat guy, what's up?
So I got the same base list as you, but that kind of secondary, like dark horse, spoiler role for me is UCF, West Virginia, and Iowa State. And for I really do. I think that we're gonna see kind of those top 5 or 6 are kind of gonna beat each other up. I think the dark horses are gonna upset a team or two, and then from that dark horse list, I think they're gonna drop a game or two to the bottom feeders. And I really think that we might see a 3-loss Big 12 champion, where it might be 2 9-3 teams playing in.
Okay. Nevio says Iowa State is his sleeper. I can get with that. Rocco Beck, if he actually has last year as a freshman, he has the record for completions, yards, and TDs in the season for Iowa State. So if he can improve on that and the defense gets better, like Jason mentioned earlier, then they could. If nothing else, like I said, I think they can definitely spoil it for some teams. Cody, your thoughts on somebody that nobody's really talking a lot about?
I mean, yeah, Texas Tech, it's got to be in that conversation, right? If I'm going to mention Baron Morton and how I do believe in him, Texas Tech was the darling pick by most teams last year to kind of sneak up and be a surprise in the conference. That clearly did not go as anticipated. This year, they have another really good back-to-back recruiting class. They've done a lot to the facilities. I think that if Joey McGuire is going to capitalize on the momentum they're having in Lubbock right now, they have to win this season. I think Texas Tech's in a position that if they have a complacent, 6-win season, that all of these benefits they're finding in recruiting and the conference realignment and their new facilities and all of the pizzazz, I think that goes away really, really quick. And I think the team is going to play like that this season. So, yeah, man, they could be a team that wins some games that they shouldn't and loses some games that they shouldn't. But they could also be a team that, surprises a decent amount of people.
That could be. Jason, get in there, which I know you kind of high on Rocco Beck and maybe Iowa State.
Yeah, I definitely would say it's Iowa State if I'm picking if it's just a clear-cut, dark horse team to win it that nobody's really talking about. I think it's Iowa State. Right. Because I like Rocco. I love the way that they play defense. I think Iowa State does a great job with what they do. And Cody talked about the fact that they have a couple of probably the better two receivers in the conference aside from
for sure
McMillan, right?
For sure.
So I think that offensively they're going to be okay. They're always going to be good on defense. I think that the Texas Tech pick that he had, it's not terrible. I think, but I could see them winning 9-3 maybe. But I could also see them being 5-7.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I think the Tech, they haven't shown us anything that we can believe in yet. Right. And that includes Baron Morton. Look, he's not been the starter, but he's gotten a lot of play time because of the fact that, you had a guy that never stayed healthy, and what's his name? He's at Louisville now.
Tyler Shuck.
Tyler Shuck, yes. So he's had plenty of time to kind of make that his job, and he really hasn't. We hadn't seen him do it yet. They've got a really good running back. They've had decent defenses for Texas Tech's sake, and for them to go on the road last year and lose to you lose to Wyoming right off the bat. Everybody expected as much as you did. I think that the honeymoon for Joey McGuire is over, and it should be.
Yeah.
What's
up, Justin?
Well, hold on Baron Morton and dude, check me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure his record as a starter is like 5-1.
Okay.
But who was playing? Who was wasn't Tyler? Tyler started and played. Did he play the whole year? Because after a while,
Tyler Shuck got hurt, and then Donovan Smith took over. And then Donovan Smith got hurt, and Baron Morton played as a true freshman. And then Donovan Smith transferred. Tyler Shuck stayed. Same thing kind of happened. And then Baron Morton got hurt early last season and then came back late.
I don't know that that's right, but I'll check. Okay.
All right.
If I'm wrong,
that goes to
they went 7-6 or 7-5 or something like that. And
right.
Come on,
kind of inconsistent.
For you to be that guy. Right,
inconsistent. That's why they would be the sleeper. We appreciate everybody getting in the comments, man. I see the questions about conferences overall, like realignment or new teams or anything like that. We'll get to those at the end after we finish going over the actual Big 12 here. So Cody, I'm gonna let you get in here first, man. Some games you're looking forward to or games that are maybe important in this Big 12 race.
A game I'm looking forward to, just as an Oklahoma State fan, is the trip to Provo, Utah. Not only because it's a bucket list type of thing for me, but I think the implications of that game do mean quite a bit. we start off the season with South Dakota State. I know when people hear the name South Dakota State, they go, ha ha, funny, funny. But it is a team that has a significant number of Division I transfers. They won 29 games in a row, back-to-back FCS national titles. We should win. It should be somewhat convincing. But then after that, you have Arkansas, followed by Tulsa. Then you have that stretch of Utah, Kansas State, West Virginia, and then we go on the road to BYU. Oklahoma State is the type of team, and I'll say it because it's fair and it's true, that if we're 7-0, 6-1, some type of thing, we typically find a way to lose those games in the middle of nowhere, right?
Right.
That game at Provo is one of those opportunities. If we beat Utah and Kansas State, could you imagine the punch in the throat it would be to turn around and lose to BYU in Provo?
It would be, because I think BYU may finish last in the conference this year. If not last, I'm thinking bottom 3 for sure.
I agree with you. If Baylor hadn't have gotten DeQuan Finn from Toledo, I would put Baylor in dead last place. But and then other than that, the Holy War, as much crap as Utah fans like to stir up occasionally, it is really good for the conference to have that level of a rivalry game, because when you lose Red River and you lose Bedlam, it does hurt, right? So you've got to have that game. I think that's going to be absolutely massive. And one of the games that I don't know that everybody's necessarily paying attention to is West Virginia. There's not very many teams that are going to be in the way for KU, but I think West Virginia could be one of those times that we need to pay attention a little bit more.
I like all of those. Stat guy, some games to look forward to, or games that might help turn the tide in the Big 12.
Yes, I'm gonna hit Kansas State's schedule. I'm riding hard with the Wildcats this year. Week 3, they catch Arizona in Manhattan. I think that game is going to have huge implications on the Big 12 rankings. And then to end the year, they go to Iowa State. And Iowa State on the road, even when Iowa State's not good, they're just a team that beats people because of how they play. Right. And it's not where, we've seen it in the past in the Big 12 where Iowa State trip people up and cost them shots at a Big 12 championship. So if Kansas State is in line to go to Arlington, whether Iowa State's good or not, that's probably the worst draw you could get to end your season. Right. Other than that, probably another big road game, just because of the distance. It's weird, is going out to West Virginia. That is earlier in the season, which I think helps in case it's a night game. But still, that drive out to Morgantown, that's just a weird trip for these teams that are centralized in the Midwest to have to go head to the East Coast.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. And you took my first game, Arizona at K-State, man. Another game I'm looking forward to is, we all talked about Jalen Daniels' health concerns and things like that, but he's always normally there at the beginning of the season. And if West Virginia is going to be a dark horse or somebody that's going to spoil, some people's run to the Big 12 championship, Kansas goes to West Virginia on September the 21st. I think that's West Virginia's first conference game, if I'm not mistaken. That's going to be, hey, can Kansas continue what they do when he's healthy, if he's still healthy? And if West Virginia is going to make some noise, then they need to make some noise at home versus Kansas in that first Big 12 matchup. Also, I'm looking at Colorado at UCF. Colorado going to UCF. That is a long, and it's got to be the furthest travel game in the whole Big 12. Colorado.
Bounce house is a tough place to play too, man.
Dude, hey, I was about to say, man, I will admit it, full stop, the bounce house is the real deal.
Right. And those fans get rowdy, they claiming national titles and all that stuff, man. So I think that's going to be, it's September the 28th. That's relatively early in the season. That's like week 4 for them or something like that, at least the 4th game. So, if Colorado's going to make it indoors, they got to be able to go on the road. It was just a picture. I had everybody. It was just a picture. Okay.
Do they have a time? I know a lot of conferences have released full schedules. Do they have a time yet for that Colorado UCF game?
I can check and see. Let's see.
College game day, the Big 12 game for Jimmy Lee's asking. Yeah, I think that you might get it for Oklahoma State and
It's to be determined. Yeah, it's to be determined. I think there's a lot of games, and game day always depends on who else is playing. But I can tell you what game, just off the top, not looking at everybody else's schedule, the Colorado versus K-State game could be up there if they're both good because of the Dylan Edwards connection to Colorado. I mean, it makes for good TV. Plus, Kansas State should be in the mix for being top of the league, and Colorado's got prime, so that could be a real
Oklahoma State at prime too.
That was one of my other games I actually had. Colorado versus OK State and Utah at OK State. Utah plays that physical defense. OK State wants to run the ball. You know what I'm saying? It's like, right. It's early in the season, September 21st. Can they slow it down? So I'm looking forward to those. So Lone Wolf, that's a good one, man. But we just mentioning Big 12 versus Big 12. There's a lot of out of conference games that are good. That Colorado, Nebraska, definitely something.
I can see that.
Yeah, Colorado and Nebraska definitely something to watch.
They hate each other a lot.
Right.
Well,
they play in the middle of the season or something like that. That's gonna be they hate each other. So go ahead, Cody. You gonna say something?
Oh no, I was gonna say, as it pertains to like the Oklahoma State Colorado game, if we're talking about undervalued games, I think the week before that is going to determine how Colorado is going to play Oklahoma State, because they play KU at Arrowhead. I think it's on Sunday. I might be wrong. I wanted to say it was a weird day. If they beat KU at Arrowhead, then yeah, I'd be a little concerned about Colorado and Oklahoma State game.
Let's see. They play K-State on October the 12th.
KU.
Oh, KU, my bad. KU. Oh, God, they got a hard schedule, bro. When it comes to Big 12, they definitely got a hard schedule. So KU, they play at Kansas, and it's on a Saturday. November
it is
23rd.
okay.
It is at Arrowhead Stadium, though.
Yeah,
it's at Arrowhead Stadium. So, here, Richard Shear says KU at Kansas State will decide the title. That was another one of the games I had on my list. I think that game is going to mean a lot more this year, especially, I think Cody brought it up. They've always had Jason Bean to back up just in case, Daniels get hurt. Hopefully, I want Daniels to stay healthy the whole season because I want to see what KU can do. I think a couple of years ago when we first started YouTube, Stat Guy kind of rolled high on Kansas because of some of the players. And then I think it was a defensive back, Kobe Bryant, got hurt. And then, so Kansas just hasn't had a lot of fortune with the injury bug. So.
Well, if God forbid Jalen Daniels goes down again, I think all of us will realize how good Jason Bean actually was. I think Jason Bean doesn't get the respect he deserves because Jalen Daniels is so good.
They won 9 freaking games, and how many games did Jalen play?
Yeah.
Right.
So
C. John says Iowa State and UCF are his dark horses. Farmageddon are the last game, and UCF the last game of the year. I get that. That is a good one. Who else is there? Let's see. Arizona at K-State is the very first Fox Friday night game. That is correct. That's on September the 13th. That's going to be, like I say, that guy stole my thunder with that one. That right there is going to set the tone for the Big 12. It's on, like I said, it's on a Friday night. It's at the beginning of the season. That's going to set the tone for what people notice. And I think what the Big 12 does during the season is going to matter at the end because, of course, the Big 12 champion gets in. But I think the Big 12 runner-up to get in, the conference needs to be better than the ACC. And this is just my thoughts. I'm not saying this is how it's going to be. I just think with Notre Dame, I think they're going to be in because they're independent. You got a G5. And then you got, I think the Big Ten and the SEC are going to get like a combined 7 teams in, whether it's good or bad for you. That's what it is. So I think the loser of the ACC and the loser of the Big 12, whoever has the strongest conference, I think that's going to matter. So that's another reason why I know a lot of people talk about games not mattering at the end of the season. Some losers of title games are still playing for those at-large bids. So go ahead, Stat.
I was going to say, and to that point, I think that's where the depth of this conference and them kind of cannibalizing each other is really going to hurt. Whereas in the ACC, maybe it's only 3 or 4 teams vying for those 2 spots. I really think there's a legit shot that you have 6 or 7 teams heading into November that have a chance to make it to the conference championship game, and you could see 2-3 loss teams playing for the title, and a 4-loss team isn't getting into the playoffs.
Oh, that's
Right.
very possible. That's very possible.
Right, Richard, that's a good point. That's why non-con games matter as well, because they start looking at like opponents and things of that nature. And so I think, listen, I'm not saying people won't hold some people out if they've already locked up spots in the championships, but I just think it's been overblown about, some of those, hey, the regular season doesn't matter anymore type deal, because you're still, like, if you're not a conference champion and you're not Notre Dame, you're still trying to get an at-large bid. So you can't, just be chilling because you got 10 wins. You never know how it's going to be across the nation. So I want to get to some of these questions about the conference since we got Cody back in. Some of these guys, they're asking about the Big 12. So I'm assuming Nathan, hopefully you're still watching Nathan. Nathan asked this earlier in the show. He says, what do you think you'll see out of the courts this week? I'm guessing he's referring to like Clemson and Florida State, possibly, all the news and stuff like that. Cody, do you have any info on that?
Well, I don't necessarily think that it's info, right? Most of it is purely conjecture right now. But, I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist or a mathematician to kind of see the writing on the wall. What you're hearing out of ACC country is very, very, very similar to the same stuff we were hearing out of Pac-12 country, correct? So, it seems like pretty inevitable to have enough common sense to see that the ACC is not going to exist the way that it currently sits, I would say even a year from now.
Gotcha. Your thoughts on that, Jason? I think I heard. Okay, I was about to say I don't have any thoughts on it. I don't know. It's been a lot of conjecture going back on social media.
Crap that nobody knows, and we're hearing a bunch of crap about what nobody knows.
I think the only thing that we know is Clemson and FSU won't out. Now, I think out of that, I don't know if, like Cody said, I think it's all like kind of opinion or whatever. So hopefully that I don't think we don't know what we're going to see in the courts, Nathan. I don't think as far as Clemson and FSU's cases against the ACC, I don't know. I mean, things in court take a long time, man. So I don't know if we're going to see anything at all. Richard had a question for us. He says, everyone thinks there's a clear separation between the SEC and the Big Ten, but I disagree. I guess it depends on what you're talking about. Are you talking about just overall? I mean, perception plus reality plus wins plus national champions, then it is a clear favorite. It's the SEC. If you're talking about potential to win a national title, you got about 3 to 4 teams, maybe 5 in the SEC, and you got 3 to 4 teams in the Big Ten. So it may be closer than people think. I think when you're talking about brands, though, like somebody posted on Twitter today, it had the top 10 teams of all time. I don't know if they was going by win or win percentage, but 5 of those teams were in the SEC: Texas, OU, Alabama, Georgia, and LSU, and 4 were in the Big Ten. I want to say it was Nebraska, USC, Ohio State, and Michigan. And then, of course, Notre Dame rounded out the top 10. So, I mean, in that perspective, I guess. But, I mean, when's the last time out of all of those teams?
And Oregon are going to be good, though. That's the thing. Aside from those couple of top 3 teams or whatever, then you have to assume that SC and Oregon and Washington and everybody is going to be good. And we've only seen them in the Pac-12 up until this point. So,
right. If I had to go into this year, if I'm looking at the Big Ten and I'm talking about like contenders, if I can say, of course, Ohio State, Michigan, and then I'm gonna put Penn State in there. They got the talent to do so. They don't have to play Michigan this year, so can they beat Ohio State? And then Oregon. I mean, Dan Lannon, he's winning. He hasn't won any, he hasn't beaten a Georgia or an Alabama or anything like that, but he's won 10, 11 games both years. So, and he's recruiting well. He's got the resources. So I guess you put them in. So that's the 4 teams. I don't think you really can say USC right now because their defense still has to show and improve. And we got to see if Miller Moss is even the guy that he was in the bowl game. In the SEC, you got the proven commodities in Georgia and Alabama as far as the CFP is concerned. But then you got the Blue Bloods in OU and Texas coming in. And then you got LSU, and then you outside. I mean, if you want to throw Oregon in there, you got to throw Tennessee in there, right? So I mean, tomato. Stat guy, you got a different opinion on that? I think it's SEC first, but I mean, I don't think they're like running away with it over the Big Ten. But I think SEC still on top.
Yeah, I guess for me, if you're clearly just talking about football, right? SEC in the last however many years you want to go back, unless you go back to like the 30s or 40s, is going to have more national championships. So because of that, they're 1A, Big Ten's 1B. But if you're talking about college sports in a whole, then yes, there is a huge difference between the SEC and Big Ten, because the SEC treats every sport like they treat football. You're talking now adding Oklahoma, the 4-time defending softball national champion, into the best softball conference. You're talking about adding Texas and Oklahoma, powerhouses in baseball, to the best baseball conference that all they do is win the Natty. And so when you look at that, as far as as far as
calm down.
It is SEC. But if you're just looking at football, it's 1A, 1B, but because SEC wins natties, you give the nod to the SEC.
Right. All right. College football net says he genuinely believes this is Clemson, Florida State, Virginia Tech, Louisville, or Miami are heading to the Big 12. If Clemson, FSU, one out of those other teams will follow in a heartbeat. I mean, if their two biggest brands leave, I could see them, kind of caving in on themselves.
I agree with that.
Right.
Completely.
Right. Tennessee crushed Iowa. Tennessee wasn't even that good. Hey, Ben is giving you some real life facts about who's better. And then Nideo says the Hawkeyes couldn't score in the Big Ten title game or in their bowl game, just awful. Right. Listen, you're not watching Iowa because you like to watch offense.
They ain't the same, folks. They ain't the same.
Right. So Shawty says, I guess the question should be what is the separation that you don't see? So I think it is, the SEC. Like I said, if you're just talking about projections of who can contend, then yeah, maybe the SEC only has one team. But like Stat Guy said, overall, top to bottom, it's just like you're talking about all sports, and it is, especially you might have had an argument before we added Texas and Oklahoma, but now adding them, the sports that we like, maybe we were not, winning all the time in, they were. So it's like, it is what it is. So,
and so to make one final point, because this should have been my first point, we probably think that Ohio State is one of their top brands. They have never beaten the University of South Carolina in football. So that's just embarrassing.
Get your shot in there, Stat. Get your shot in there, Stat. Oh God! So Timmy saying Penn State won't have to worry about Ohio State. They're not going to beat West Virginia. Listen, that's a lot. That's a rivalry game.
Facts. That's facts right there. That's facts.
I think Penn State is picked to win. Should be picked to win, and I think they will win.
Penn State's gonna beat the brakes off of them, man.
I'm just saying, if they don't, Jason, that's gonna put him on the hot seat.
It would put him in a bad position for sure. Yeah.
Right. Welcome in, Bishop Franks, man. What's going on, Bishop? Man, you getting in late, Bishop. We're gonna have to get on you, man. Now, Bishop's our guy, man. He's on both channels, man. Member of the month on the Fan Addict. We appreciate you, Bishop, man. So, yeah. Richard says the Big Ten is top heavy. That's correct. I saw a post on Twitter that says it was Ohio State fan that said the SEC was scared. They went out and added 2 blue bloods, but continue to keep mid and then listed like 4 teams. I'm like, as if keeping Illinois, Indiana, Minnesota, Rutgers, Purdue, Maryland. I was like, come on, dog. Like, what are we doing here?
Come on, you didn't even name the Vandy of the Midwest, Northwestern.
Right. Now, listen, it was like 8 teams. I'm like, so it is what it is, dog. At the end of the day, it's gonna shake out to be the same teams fighting for it this year. I think the same teams that's in the perennial fight for it. I'm not saying they all, make it to the championship, but they get to the playoffs. All right, we got Jason. We got a super chat. He says, Cody, what will it take for the Big 12 to earn national respect?
We're gonna have to win the national title or not do what TCU did. You can't beat Michigan in the Final Four and then get your head kicked in. That's what you cannot do. If TCU would have lost to Georgia by 2 touchdowns, I think this is a completely different conversation. But people don't remember the Michigan game; they remember the Georgia game. So worst case scenario, if a Big 12 team needs to get. It's not even getting in because that's been the perception of the Big 12. OU was phenomenal at making it to the national title, but when OU was the king of the Big 12 running everything, the perception was right? Nobody's better than OU, and OU's not quite good enough to win national titles. And I think that that's still the perception.
They weren't under Lincoln Riley, that's for sure.
Right. That's a good question.
And I'm not dogging OU at all. Like I think OU was the face of the Big 12, and they definitely earned that right. But again, right, the perception was OU's going to win the Big 12, and then OU's going to lose. In the national title game.
That literally was our everybody
entrance and you've got one win in the CFP out of the Big 12, and that was by TCU. It wasn't by Texas or Oklahoma. So these guys, I think that you got to get at least to the semifinals, not necessarily win and get in the championship. I think you got to be very competitive against when you get there, though.
I think if they can win the first round this year, whoever wins the Big 12, if they can win the first round, they'll have a bye. They'll have a bye. Mm-hmm. Then they can win that first game, like you say, get to the semis, and in the semis have, like Cody said, not lose by more than 2 touchdowns. Because if you go out there in the semis and you lose by more than 2 touchdowns, then it's going to be similar, ideology. Go ahead, Stat.
Well, I was going to say, I think unless they constantly are getting to the semis, that doesn't get you national respect. That might get you a little bit more respect. Okay, you didn't go lay an egg in the first round, but I think that somebody from the Big 12, preferably different teams, to show your conference off as a whole, needs to make a couple national championship games with maybe like 2 natty appearances in a 4-year stretch or something by 2 different teams would help the national perspective. Because when you look at, when we talk about it, that's what began this whole SEC thing. Was there were multiple champions. It wasn't just 1 or 2. And same, then you have Florida State and then Clemson kind of back to back right there together. And so I think that but you have to get multiple wins. I don't think a semi-playoff appearance is going to move the needle. It gives you some bragging rights heading into the year to maybe be able to move the needle more. But on a national perspective, I could care less if somebody wins 1 game in the playoffs, make it to the championship.
Right. Well, listen, but that's the whole thing about everybody comparing the conferences and the SEC's domination is because, of course, Alabama won 6 national championships. But in that time, if we go back to the BCS and we say CFP or we just say CFP, you also have had, if just the CFP, you also had LSU win. You've also had Georgia win back to back. If you go back to the BCS, you had Florida win, 2 and 3 years. So, and Auburn got a title. So it's multiple. So to Stat Guy's point, now this Sooner in Texas is a good one. This is kind of reiterating what Cody was saying. Cody was saying that Oklahoma was dominating the Big 12, but then they would get into the playoffs or the BCS game, whatever it is, and lose. And that's that Jason said we lost. He said, Jason, we lost a couple under Bob Stoops that we shouldn't have. But that's kind of the thing, though. Like,
but I don't know about that we shouldn't have. They lost to probably one of the top teams of the last 50 years, in USC. They lost to Tim Tebow and that amazing Florida team and that other one. And they lost to Nick Saban. I don't know about, LSU, maybe you should have won that one. But they had chances to win that one. But the truth is they screwed that up whenever they lost to Kansas State the week before, or in the Big 12 championship game. They got boat raped in that one. So you can say we should have won that game against LSU, but maybe they were a little overrated.
Could have been. And that's the right to that overrated point. You know what I'm saying? It's like they say, okay, they're dominating the Big 12, but you know what I'm saying, they were a little overrated because they were dominating a bad Big 12 like at that time. You know what I'm saying? I think
even a bad Big 12 at that point, but it was getting there.
Right. So to be better, and that's got to be
even back then in the Big 12, you had 3 or 4 guaranteed wins. I think was yeah.
But you also had 3 or 4 really good games all the time too. There, that were going to be, if you were going to go up against Texas in those days when they had Vince Young, and then even after that when they had Colt McCoy, or those were going to be tough games. You had Mike Leach was doing his thing at Texas Tech. You had, not for nothing, but Coach Snyder was going to be a pain in the ass no matter what.
Every year.
And they still had Nebraska. And then they still had Nebraska was doing their thing. And they won a national championship couple years before Oklahoma won their last one. So
right. To Nidio's point, he says it is media driven nationally, but I think if you take individual teams, there's respect for individual teams, but as a conference as a whole, I think that's media driven. But I mean, I watch it and I'm like, at some point, I just was like, well, Oklahoma's gonna lose like after they had a shot to beat Georgia. And they lost that one, and like Jason has told us, the trenches kept getting smaller and smaller. So it's like after a while, it's like when you see them, you're like, well, they're just gonna lose. Kind of like now, if I tell y'all Notre Dame's going to the playoffs, a lot of y'all say, well, okay, well, and do what? Because you know why? Every time they get there, they lose. So
you won 6 Big 12s in a row, and it's because there was not very good teams in the Big 12.
So, stat guy, you was gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, just to throw back to kind of some old school Big 12. I mean, y'all were talking about Snyder and everything, but you also had the Pirate as well, and Mike Leach changing the world with what he was doing at Texas Tech that had never been seen before when he first kind of got that offense rolling. I mean, they had brands that had their own identities and everything that I think had respect nationally, and I think that's been the biggest problem with the Big 12 right now. You lose your two biggest brands. You do add Coach Prime in Colorado, which is going to bring media attention, but you don't really have that true brand that you can kind of put your backpack on and carry some of the weight for the conference. And that's why I think they have to make real noise in the playoffs to move the needle. I don't think they're going to get it done.
To your point, I think you need somebody that steps up and goes and makes a deep run every 2 or 3 years, or 2 or 3 years out of 5, if you're really going to get that. It could be 2 teams, but I'm saying if you don't have whoever, that is a clear out front couple of teams that are going to be able to carry the weight, and that they're going to get in there and be able to play very well, not just 1 and Q.
Right. Shout out to Stink Ass Cat, man. We appreciate you. Where you been, Stink Ass, man? Right. Hey, shout out. Go ahead, Jess.
I do have another question that I thought of. Do we think that obviously it's going to be harder in some conferences, but the Big 12 can really help themselves here? Do we think we're going to see maybe a team or two emerge and then the Big 12 protect their product and give them an easier schedule? Do you see that being something that they try to not give them all 6 of the hardest teams that might be in the conference, but only 2 of them?
That could be. I mean, I don't know, with the talent so spread out, how they really gonna protect them. You know what I'm saying? Like we talked about 5 or 6 teams. You can't miss all 5 or 6 teams. I don't even know if you can't miss.
But you could play 2 instead of 6. I mean, there's 16 teams. Right. So you don't play.
But that's with the thought process that Texas Tech and the West Virginias and the TCUs aren't going to be good or at least on the level of the other guys. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, you possibly could. Stink Ass said he was eating some rib tips and beef ribs. Oh man, hey, I can have the beef ribs for sure. So I can't do pork ribs. I like them, but they tear my stomach up. But I wish I had some of that tonight. Hey man, y'all are watching Saturday Night Snap Count on the Fanatic Sports Network, or some of y'all might be watching on college football, Hall of Fame college football with Jason and the Coach. Man, make sure you're hitting the like button, subscribe if you haven't already to both channels, and then like I say, the Saturday Night Snap Count will be going like right now in the preseason. We're every other Saturday. This Saturday is the Big 12. We've already done the ACC and the Big 10. And go back and watch those videos. 2 weeks from now, what is that? August the 3rd, we'll be doing the SEC. And we're showing some of the love to the G5 2 weeks after that. But during the season, we'll be every single Saturday night, wrapping up what happened on college football between, Thursday and Saturday. Ramen's crazy. He said, I know you just said fat ass sportscast. He said, but I'm half deaf and it sounds like fat ass sportscast.
He's always got some shit to say, man.
Ramen's a fool, man. But if you want to catch all the guys, man, here are their social medias. I read them out earlier. I think you guys might be able to read that. They'll be in the descriptions on both channels as well. Andrew, our Penn State guy, is the only one that's not on YouTube, but you can interact with him at Sideline Sports _Penn State on Twitter. All of us are on Twitter. Mine's the same. I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all are following us already. Make sure y'all go out and check that out. Cody's dropping content every day on Locked On Oklahoma State, so y'all make sure y'all check that out as well, man. So let's see. We appreciate you coming in, Timothy. Timothy, my question: you're a West Virginia fan? Because I know you gave us some good stuff on West Virginia, my man.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a West Virginia fan?
Yes.
Is that? Oh, he is. Okay, that's what's up,
Yeah.
man. I can say that's easy. He'd be yeah. See, I want to be here for OU, UT, and see if Coach I is silly enough to pick Texas second year. Listen, I try to go. If y'all know me and Jason to tell you, I'm kind of the most unbiased guy here. I try to go year by year. Sometimes those past things sneak into my head, and I tried to give Texas a little credit, even though OU's been dominating them over the past decade. You know what I'm saying? They were
Not
playing
decade,
good,
bro. Not just decade. It's,
well,
it's 18 and 7 in the last 25. I'll put it to you that way.
Right. So I try to, give them the benefit of the doubt. And just like me and Stat Guy have always been Mike Gundy fans as coaches. We know he blows one from time to time, like Cody mentioned earlier. But I try to go into the season and say, okay, man, this team has what it takes to win this game. So I will see. I'm not gonna make any promises there soon in Texas. So we appreciate everybody getting in, man. Everybody for jumping in the comments, man. Again, August the 3rd, we'll be talking SEC football. Before we get out of here, just in case y'all didn't see it on the screen, Jason, tell them where they can find you, man.
At CFB-pod right there. And you can also find me at HOF Sooners on YouTube as well, and JW_HOF on Twitter. So, yeah, man. Excited about. I had a fun one on this one. I'm excited about talking SEC ball the next time around. Yeah, got a lot of stuff to talk about.
That's right, man. Cody, tell them where they can find you at, my man.
Yeah, you can find me Big Papa Pump Doc. I'm sorry, wrong place. Locked On Oklahoma State every day, every single podcasting platform, as well as visually on YouTube. At All Day O State on the Twitter, and then that's about. I have the other whatever Instagram. I don't use the other crap, so I always forget.
Right, I was about to say you really ain't on Instagram, even though you got an account.
Bro, I hate Twitter too, but it's a requirement, so I embrace it as much as I can.
Right. All right, Stat Guy, give us some parting shots, man.
Yeah, man. So y'all can always find me over here on the Fanatic Sports Network. If y'all haven't yet, on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m., come hang out with me and your boy Coach I. Breakfast tailgate with Coach I. Bro, we talk all the sports. We be getting wild. There ain't no telling what topic's going to come up. It's early in the morning. I may not have had 3 cups of coffee yet, so he might not even keep me in line. There ain't no telling who I'm going to take a shot at. But look, my parting shot for tonight, Kansas, you did the deed and you upset Texas because you went for 2 because you're Kansas and that's what you do. And you've done nothing but let me down since then. And because of that, y'all are going 6-6 this year.
Oh God, don't put that on Kansas. We want to see Daniels healthy, my man. Don't put that on them. But Stat Guy, he had to take a shot at Kansas. He's riding with Kansas State in the Big 12 this year. So shout out to Stat Guy. Yeah, man, y'all check out Jason's morning show on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and in the morning, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, come hang out with me and the Stat Guy and Jake Merle, Coach Jake from Set the Tone, Alabama, and college football on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. We trying to bring y'all content. Like I say, Cody's giving out doing Oklahoma State content every day. We're trying to give you content. If you can't find it between our family of networks, then something's wrong. But we're giving it to you as you can have it, other than probably Sunday. I don't know if Cody might be doing it, but man, y'all can, of course, like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate all my guys, man. We try to put together a good panel for y'all to give some different takes, bring you from different perspectives, and just have some fun and talk trash as fans, man. So until next Saturday, Saturday, August the 3rd, SEC Saturday Night Snap Count. Make sure y'all get in here for that. And until then, man, for my guys, man, Stat Guy, Cody, Jason, I'm Coach I. We out of here.
Peace.